Hello, welcome along to the preview of AFL Round 7 action, courtesy of TABtouch. David Shortte and Digby Beacham with you once again. G'day, Diggers.
Shorty, good morning.
Nice to be with you and congratulations. Last week, while I was disgraceful with just 4 tips, you were right on top of your game with 7. So nice tipping performance. You also landed your novelty last week, and well, my only saving grace last week was being able to find the Ross Glendinning medalist Josh Kennedy, who had a night out for West Coast up front with 6 majors.
Yes, you did forecast that and you're on the money, so congratulations there.
Well, you're entitled to get something right, Digby, when you go through as much as we do, and certainly not much else went right for me last week. We'll try it all over again this time around, kicking off with Friday night footy where St Kilda take on GWS. The Saints 295 into 285, the Giants a little easy, 140 out to 142. They were good winners last week over the Western Bulldogs in what was an outstanding contest.
Yeah, it was, and I think this will be a really good one as well. I don't think GWS are at the level that they need to be. They're missing a few soldiers. I think St Kilda are a really big hope in this game. They play their best football inside Etihad Stadium. I'll tip GWS, but I think it'll be very, very close, Shorty.
All right, I'll go with the Giants as well in that one. We move to the Saturday action. North Melbourne taking on Adelaide. The Kangas getting their first win of the season last week. This is down at Bluntstone Arena in Tasmania. North 6 into 575. Adelaide a touch easy, 112 out to 113. I really like what I've seen from the Crows. Once again last week, they absolutely demolished Richmond. I think there'll be more of the same coming in this fixture.
Agree. I just can't see why you would want to tip against Adelaide. What they have done thus far has been exemplary, and there's no reason to suggest they won't keep it up. I think they'll run North off their legs.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Adelaide to win and win well there in Tasmania. On to the next of the contest. It's a big one from a tradition and history perspective, but maybe not so much from where they sit on the table this year. Collingwood taking on Carlton at the MCG. Good money for the Black and Whites. Well, they did it to me again. I'm zip 6 for Collingwood this year and going with them this week, so they're a rough hope to get rolled. 138 into 133. The Blue Bag is 305 out to 320.
I hope you're wrong, because I've actually tipped Collingwood with you, Shorty. I like the way Carlton are building as a side. I think the shell is there. They're going to have a very good spine in a few years' time. But Collingwood's midfield class and depth should get them over the line.
Yeah, let's hope so. Look, I've almost given up on the Black and Whites this year, but we'll see how things pan out in that particular contest. I'll give them another crack. On to the Adelaide Oval, where Port Adelaide do battle with West Coast. This should be a really interesting game, this one. Port in pretty good form so far this season. They've been pretty well backed in most of their contests as well, and it's no different here. 138 into 132 for the Power. West Coast easing from $3.05 out to $3.40. They don't have a bad record at the Adelaide Oval, West Coast Digby, but they run into a white-hot Port Adelaide outfit.
Yeah, they do, Shorty, but you're right. They've won 4 of their 5 at Adelaide Oval of late, West Coast. They went there twice last year and won both times. I suspect that they'll be a lot better there than what they are at the MCG, and one would hope so, but I'll tip Port, but I think it'll be reasonably close.
Alrighty, moving on to the next of these games, up to the Gold Coast, Metricon Stadium, where Gold Coast do battle with Geelong. $3.50 and firm the Suns. The Cats at $1.30 and firm. Disappointing performance from the Cats last week. They were convincingly beaten by Collingwood.
Yeah, they were, and they need to bounce back. I think they will. I'm not sure that they'll demolish Gold Coast, who I thought were okay against North Melbourne. They're missing a couple of players, in particular May and Thompson, and they were a little bit stiff with some umpiring. So if they can bring that effort, they're a chance, but I'll tip Geelong.
Yeah, I'll go with you, Diggs, and Geelong to bounce back to winning form in that one. Etihad Stadium, Saturday night, should be an interesting contest, this one. The Western Bulldogs 136 into 135. Richmond 310 out to 320. Well, their world caved in on them last Sunday there, Richmond. They'd had all the build-up. Their first quarter was pretty good, but Adelaide from quarter time onwards just clicked up, found another gear, and Richmond had no answers.
None at all. Conceded 16 goals in the final 3 quarters, Richmond, while kicking only 4 themselves. So I like the way the Bulldogs are going, Shorty. I must admit, I was really impressed with them down there in Canberra last Friday night. Had they kicked accurately, they win. I think they win this and win it well.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they're really off that performance last Friday night, building towards some good form. The Western Bulldogs, they were outstanding. They were clearly the better side against the Giants, who I've got a big opinion of. So while their kicking boots weren't quite on, they've got players to come back over the next 4 to 8 weeks, the Western Bulldogs as well. So I can really see them building some momentum as we charge towards the finals. Moving on to the Sunday action, Sydney do battle with Brisbane. Well, there's some pretty brave punters out there. Sydney, $1.13 into $1.10. Despite not winning a game so far this season, Brisbane $5.75 out to $7. This is the SCG. There was lots of strong money to suggest Sydney could win last week at the Shorts. Then there's some money came the other way for Carlton, Digby, and it was the money on the Blues that ended up being on the money there last week, getting the cash. Remaining winless to this point in the season. Sydney, do they win their first game of the year here?
I think so, but I thought so last week. I had them rolling through multis. Geez, I butchered that, Shorty, but
alone.
A bit like Sydney with their possession, but they win this, but gee whiz, they're a long way removed from where they should be.
They're battling, aren't they? They really are. It wasn't the fact they got beaten, it was the way they played last week. Watching that game, they just insipid. They're a long way off the pace at the moment, the Swannies, and as you said, they should beat Brisbane in this game, but I won't fall off the chair if they don't, the way they've been going of late. To the MCG on Sunday, Melbourne $1.44 and firm take on Hawthorn $2.75 and firm. Well, the Hawks, they had that one-off week where they looked like world beaters against the West Coast Eagles at the MCG, but St Kilda absolutely toyed with them last week. They were back to what we'd seen the first five rounds of the season, Digby, and listening to Alistair Clarkson post-game, he made no secret of the fact that they're the worst third quarter side in the Football League right now, and there wasn't a lot of positives coming out of his mouth. I think the Hawks they've got a little bit of work to do over the next few years to try and build their way back up the table, but for everyone that's having a crack at them, geez, you wouldn't mind being a Hawks supporter. They've had a pretty reasonable decade, and that's just how it works. You have your ups, and now they're going to have their downs. It's time to take some medicine for a little while.
Absolutely, they're at rock bottom. Let's not get away from that. But look, I'm convinced that Melbourne are a good side, Shorty. I'm actually in their corner, and I think they win this one. They beat Hawthorn in this corresponding game last year, and they have the leg speed. I think Hogan comes back, admittedly. Hawthorn will be boosted by Rioli and Birchall, but I think that Melbourne have the wheels that will really trouble Hawthorn. They look slow, they're disorganised in the back half. Melbourne for mine.
Yeah, Melbourne able to win last week as well at potentially the ground that's not their favourite. And Eddie had a really good leading to a game like this where they're going to their favourite ground at the G, taking on Hawthorn. I think the line might not be a bad play in this game, the $2 line, given just how handsomely Hawthorn have been beaten in a number of games this year. We talked on it last week where they were beaten by Gold Coast by almost 15 goals going back a few weeks ago. Last week beaten by St Kilda by 75 points. When they're losing big, so this might be a really good line play for Melbourne to win and win well. And the final game here at Domain Stadium sees Fremantle taking on Essendon, $1.58 into $1.53, the Dockers with TABtouch. Essendon $2.40 out to $2.50. Well, last week, Freo outplayed in the first quarter. From that point on, they held their ground okay. I guess from their perspective, they'd won 3 in a row prior to that. Essendon's about the right sort of level for Fremantle right now as far as comparison to another team that are in the competition, and they'd be going into this game thinking they can get another win on the board, I'd suggest.
Agree, and look, I'm not sure either side will play final, sure, but one of these two teams will be 4-3, which is a really good base if you are pushing for a top 8 berth, but I think that side will be Fremantle.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Freo to get the cash on a Sunday afternoon there at Domain Stadium. Well, Digby, this week we're unanimous. You've got a nice head start on me, though, it must be said, for the year as we sit right now. We're both going with GWS to be too good for St Kilda, Adelaide to be too strong for North Melbourne, Collingwood to be too good for their arch rivals in Carlton, Port Adelaide to knock over West Coast, Geelong to hit the road and be too good for the Suns at the Gold Coast, the Western Bulldogs to be too strong for Richmond off their big performance last Friday night in defeat against the Giants. The Sunday action, Sydney to bring up their first win of the year against Brisbane, Melbourne to be too good for the Hawks, and Fremantle at home to knock over the Bombers. Let's get into your multi for this week, Digby, and well done last week. We were able to get the novelty up. Multis didn't quite go to plan, but the novelty was good. What are we going to do with our multi this time?
Well, I'm going the 5 favourites on Saturday, Shorty, which is Adelaide, it is Collingwood, it is Port Adelaide, Geelong and the Western Bulldogs, and that is paying $3.47.
$3.47. Look, I'll go with the Giants in Friday night football, the Magpies to get the cash. Geez, that's brave. The Western Bulldogs and Adelaide to win by 25 or more, $3.72, that particular multi for this weekend, but hopefully the Giants get it rolling. Black and Whites to be too good for the Blues, the Bulldogs to knock over the Tigers, and Adelaide to win by 25 or more. What about your novelty for this week, Diggs?
Well, I'm going GWS, Collingwood and Fremantle to all win by under 40 points. If that occurs, Shorty, we'll get back $10.16. So that is my novelty.
I like it. All right, my novelty last week, we were let down, believe it or not, by Eddie Betts, which was unusual. It hasn't happened many times this year. As the last league, he let us down. This time round, I'm going with Tommy Lynch to kick 3 or more. I think he can do that for Gold Coast. Ben Brown, he's having a great year up front for the Kangas. I think he can kick 3 or more. And rounding it at Jeremy Cameron in the Friday night game to kick 3 or more. $3.59 if that can happen. So I'll stick with some of the gun spearheads to kick 3 or more this weekend and see what we can do from a novelty perspective. Don't forget, punters, this weekend we've got the $2 lines available on each and every game of this round 7 action. You can use them on their own. You can use them in multis, in and out of racing digs. Tremendous, been really well received over the last couple of weeks, and another good opportunity this weekend. As we touched on a couple of the games, you might like to use it. Melbourne, I think, against Hawthorn, certainly a great chance to be covering this weekend. I also thought that Adelaide were a really good chance as well of covering the line up against your boys North Melbourne this weekend, but they've just been blowing sides apart.
Yeah,
They're probably the 2 line bets that I'd sort of marry myself up to this weekend.
Absolutely, and as you said, $2 line, you won't get a better offer anywhere.
Outstanding. Good luck with your thoughts this weekend. Diggs, great catching up again.
Pleasure.
We'll do it all over next week right here for TABtouch. It'll be AFL Round 8 action. Good luck with your thoughts for AFL Round 7.